As the leading game distribution platform for desktop computers, Steam's importance in the gaming industry is undeniable. In 2013, Valve incorporated an early access game delivery model so that developers could sell games to players, offering them a chance to test and enjoy games in development, and offer feedback if so desired. Steam's early access model has been highly beneficial to many. These current early access games are examples of titles that you should try out while they are still in development. FACTORIO, a real-time strategy game that allows both single-player and multiplayer play. FACTORIO is about resource management and studying and creating increasingly more sophisticated item harvesting structures. The basic idea is that players have crash-landed on an alien planet and are trying to secure resources to build a rocket to launch themselves off of the planet. Towards this goal, the game allows a lot of individual freedom, but will require extensive investment, as players start with harvesting and creating only the most basic items and machines, until they can craft more elaborate machines or technologies later. Beat Saber. Beat Saber is a rhythm game that involves using red and blue lightsabers to slice through target blocks. The target blocks must be slashed by the corresponding colored lightsaber, with points added based on how well the player has cut through the target. The visual aesthetic works in tandem with the power of music to create a fun gameplay experience. Songs feature multiple difficulty levels as well to suit the preferences of the player. It was nominated for Best VR and AR Game at last year's The Game Awards, so be sure to check it out. TOUHOU Luna Nights. This is a Metroidvania game featuring a maid that fights against all sorts of Japanese demons. The developer, Team Ladybug, has prior experience working on action titles. The dark environments create a unique contrast with other cute elements, including not only the protagonist, but some of the enemies and other characters encountered during gameplay. The main character boasts many flashy attacks for players to use, which is a great draw and a distinguishing point from the earliest Metroidvania games. Bright Memory. Bright Memory is a first-person shooter with episodic releases starting with Episode 1 earlier this month. Play as the protagonist Sheila as she is tasked to prevent a third-party military organization from retrieving a power to animate the dead. Besides being a first-person shooter, the game allows for melee attacks, with the purpose of allowing players to rack up a high combo count against enemies. Environmental backdrops create a tense but inviting and beautiful tone. Be sure to play the game and uncover the unfolding conspiratorial plot as it unfolds. Maiden. This is an FPS game reminiscent of early Doom and Quake titles, and it still occupies an important space for those who may seek an experience just like that, as the aforementioned franchises evolve and reach increasing levels of complexity. In fact, Maiden is developed by Voidpoint and published by 3D Realms, which worked on games from the popular Duke Nukem franchise, Duke Nukem 3D and Duke Nukem Forever. The pixel art style, well done in its own right, is a great draw for players aiming to recapture that 90s FPS experience. Besiege. Besiege is about building weapons or structures to achieve a specific goal per mission, while allowing for a wide variety of individual approaches and experimentation. Create elaborate or simple works of art, fearsome contraptions, or ridiculous monstrosities to achieve the fulfillment of a variety of mission objectives, from killing soldiers, destroying buildings, or transporting objects. The solution to your mission is the creation of whatever fills the objective. Let your imagination make use of the tools given to you and craft your way forward. REENTRY, an orbital simulator. While flight simulators are a known genre, REENTRY is a space flight simulation game that takes direct inspiration from NASA space programs. As an astronaut in training, learn about the myriad of systems needed to operate space flight machines and explore the final frontier once breaking through the boundary between Earth and outer space. As countries continue to explore space technology and civilization, this game can be a great way to develop interest in life outside of this blue planet, even if through the eyes of a rookie astronaut. Black Ice. If you're a fan of cyberpunk, then Black Ice is something you definitely must check out. Described as a hack-and-shoot RPG, use a variety of weapons at your disposal as you travel through cyberspace and dispose of enemies. The environment, all black and accented with a variety of brightly colored lines, creates a sense of both alienation and order, perfect to give players a sense of being placed in a dungeon that they must navigate. As a procedurally generated game, expect every experience to be different every time you give Black Ice a try. Vanishing Realms. An open-world fantasy RPG that was designed around virtual reality. Solve puzzles and fight enemies through motion controls. You'll have the option to duck and block attacks, so survival will involve getting really immersed into the combat, an experience of which is widely recognized and distinguished among other virtual reality games. The game is not always a breathless adventure full of tension, so be sure to pause a while and take in the environments around you. While updates have been quiet for some time, the developer confirmed last November that they are still continuing to work on the game, so be sure to look forward to what's next. Long Gone Days. Combining visual novel and RPG combat elements, Long Gone Days is an intriguing game about a military sniper named Rourke who deserts his post as he learns about the war crimes that his country is committing. His decision to leave makes him a target from his country, and what results is Rourke, his medic partner Adair, and their allies fighting for their survival and future after their desertion. A top-down RPG with sprites and vibrant character portraits, the darkness and overwhelming presence of the military is offset and made accessible by the visual direction chosen by the developers. Black Mesa. Have you heard of Half-Life, the seminal FPS series made by Valve? Have you heard of the Black Mesa Corporation and the Black Mesa incident? Well, now get this. Black Mesa is also the name of a remake of the very first Half-Life game, developed separate from Valve by a third-party team. There's something poetic and amazing about seeing such a game approved by Valve itself and hosted on the Steam platform. The first part of the game, featuring remakes of all levels up to the Lambda Core level, was released in 2012. The second part, Black Mesa Zen, saw a new promotional trailer being released in November of last year, with a release set for the second quarter of 2019. Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark. The direction of RPGs over time is such that the genre does not see as many tactics RPGs as it used to. Certainly games such as the recent Valkyria Chronicles 4 helps fill that void, but then there's Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, a game unabashedly inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre. It's a blend of fantasy and steampunk, featuring hand-drawn environments. The developers encourage investment in experimenting with the game's battle system, including a class system with more than 20 classes. There's also no permadeath, but rather an injury system that lowers stats when a unit dies, only to be restored to full after not participating in battles for a time. It will also be interesting to see what the conclusion of the widely recognized story will be when the full game is released. The Takeover. Just a look at the logo should immediately recall some beat-em-up classics such as Streets of Rage and Final Fight, and such an experience is exactly what developers Pelican 13 are going for. Besides using combos of punches and kicks, players can also make use of weapons to defeat enemies. Co-op play is also available, which can be especially helpful when playing through the game alone feels difficult. The game also makes use of a comic book aesthetic that is colorful and accelerates a feeling of action. It also features 3D action stages and 3D rendered environments. Deep Rock Galactic. A co-op FPS that is at once vibrant and dark, cartoony and foreboding, and all at the same time, allowing for 1 to 4 players per game session. Play as mining dwarves navigating through procedurally generated caves to acquire as much in gold, jewels, and minerals as possible and survive through onslaughts of aliens. There are 4 classes to choose from: Engineer, Gunner, Driller, and Scout, each with unique weapons and special item loadouts to choose from. Juggle both the need for survival and the need to acquire as much loot as possible in the hopes of achieving promotions, and perhaps do so with friends. Vox Machina. This is a VR giant mech combat game featuring highly customizable weapon loadouts. The developers also proudly tout the absence of loot boxes or microtransactions, with the aim of providing an equal access playing ground of intense combat. While the promotional strategy and game design of some VR games emphasize highly immersive sensory experiences, a game such as this that is focused on competitive combat, whether in free-for-all deathmatches or team-based fights, is sure to draw even more attention to the potential of VR games moving forward. Customization and lack of paywalls will create a greater sense of empowerment and accessibility as well. And that concludes our video on 15 early access games on Steam that you need to check out. Without an early access model, there are many games that may not see the light of day, whether it be for funding reasons or for developers reaching creative blocks, or an assortment of other possibilities. Thankfully, Steam's incorporation of early access allows for an alternative method of game development that is more active and participatory than the conventional closed system seen in most retail games. It's a great choice also for players who like to offer feedback and watch a game grow. Be sure to tell us which games look interesting to you, or which of these you may have already played. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.